Sometimes even actors decide they've had enough, although it's probably fair to say that their bad days are a lot more dramatic than anyone else's. While most walk-offs result from a tough day on set or some disagreement with the crew, a few stars have been calling it a day for much nobler reasons. Big Bang Theory and Call Me Cat actor Mayim Bialik departed the set of her other job as host of Jeopardy in May of 2023. However, her walkout wasn't spurred by any personal beef with the show. Rather, Bialik left the long-running game show to stand in solidarity with the ongoing strike by the Writers Guild of America. Jeopardy champion Ken Jennings, who altered hosting duties with Bialik, took over Bialik's role as host for Celebrity Jeopardy and other episodes for the final week of its 39th season. Bialik's gesture was echoed a month later by Scream 6 star Dermot Mulroney, who walked off the set of The View in June while promoting the Disney Plus series Secret Invasion. The actor was participating in a pre-taped interview for the daytime talk series when he announced to the host that he would be walking off to support the striking writers.
Thank you. I'll see you on the picket lines in July.
In a statement issued after the taping, Mulroney said, "I find it incredibly important to continue to support the union." Lea Michele wasn't always on the best of terms with her Glee co-stars, but one specific incident with the late Naya Rivera led her to storm off the set of the hit series. On April 17, 2014, TMZ reported that according to sources close to Rivera, Michele's so-called diva antics had recently annoyed most of the cast and crew on set. Apparently, she made everyone wait to shoot a scene while she dealt with personal matters. Rivera finally went to the producers and warned them that Michele was beginning to annoy people, and when Michele learned about that, she left the set. Sources close to Michele played down the story, telling TMZ that the actor wasn't aware of any complaints about her and wasn't even shooting scenes with Rivera at the time. Additional rumors suggest that Rivera was the one who got thrown off set. In 2016, Rivera published a book in which she admitted that she and Michele did not get along. She wrote, "Lea and I were like two sides of the same battery. We were both strong-willed and competitive. Not just with each other, but with everyone, and that's not a good mixture." The fight between Carl Weathers' Apollo Creed and Dolph Lundgren's Ivan Drago in Rocky IV is truly brutal, and what went down behind the scenes was nearly as bad. According to Sylvester Stallone, Weathers and Lundgren did not get along on set. When the two were in the ring, Lundgren had been too aggressive with Weathers, causing Weathers to storm off set while yelling profanities at his co-star. After 4 days, during which production on the movie stalled, Stallone finally convinced Weathers to return, but only if Lundgren agreed to go easier in the ring. In 2020, Yahoo Entertainment spoke with Lundgren about his on-set fracas with Weathers. Lundgren said, "I was a fighter, a karate champion from Europe, and I think when Carl showed up, he was like, 'I'm gonna have to fight this guy? He seems like he's the real thing.' I didn't dislike anybody on that set, but I think he got a little scared of me. Then I had to kill him, of course." Lundgren is probably referring to what his character had to do in the movie there, but in retrospect, maybe Weathers was smart to get out of there. 1971's A French Connection is considered one of the greatest movies ever made, but on-set difficulties between Gene Hackman and legendarily two-fisted director William Friedkin almost killed the film altogether. Speaking with Christopher McQuarrie in 2016, Friedkin explained that Hackman had grown up with a distaste for authority, and as the authority figure on set, Friedkin needed to make Hackman angry. Friedkin would tell the actor,
"Pal, you better get a day job, you know? You better look for something else, because this isn't working out." And he actually quit the film.
According to Friedkin, it took an intervention from Hackman's agent, Sue Mengers, to bring the actor back to set. She apparently said,
"You know, you will own everything they've spent." So Gene stuck around and stuck it out.
Of course, if he had dropped out of the movie, Hackman would have missed an Oscar for Best Lead Actor. You've gotta hope Sue got a raise for that one. Faye Dunaway has long held a reputation for being difficult to work with, but she's not to blame for the incident between her and Roman Polanski on the set of the 1974 classic Chinatown. At one point, the director apparently plucked a hair from Dunaway's head, causing her to scream profanities at him before storming off set. In 2009, Interview magazine asked Polanski if he ever talked to Dunaway after filming Chinatown. Polanski, who has since been disgraced for committing a litany of sex crimes, said, "Oh yeah, of course. Last time I saw her was in Caan last year. She was also giving a prize. We met in the bathroom. I was washing my hands and some woman was washing her hands and she said, 'Hi, Roman.' I look up in the mirror and it was Faye. And that apparently was that." Ridley Scott's critically acclaimed historical drama Gladiator received several Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Lead Actor for Russell Crowe. But the film's star didn't make that journey particularly easy. When Gladiator was released in 2000, Time magazine published an article about the making of the movie. The article claimed that Crowe had doubts about the ever-evolving script and at one point stormed off the set when he didn't get the answers he'd demanded. A DreamWorks executive told the magazine, "Russell was not well behaved. He tried to rewrite the entire script on the spot. He did a lot of posturing and put the fear of God into some people. Thankfully, Ridley never yelled. He was a voice of reason dealing with many unreasonable factors, not the least of which was his lead. 20 years later, Gladiator producer Douglas Wick told Cinema Blend that reports of Crowe's heavy involvement in the script were greatly exaggerated, adding, "Russell constantly had a strong point of view of what Maximus would do and not do, but there wasn't much improvisation." Comedy legend Chevy Chase played outlandish millionaire Pierce Hawthorne in the cult sitcom Community. In the years since, his bitter feud with series creator Dan Harmon has become the stuff of legend.
That when he walks into the room, the temperature changes. I mean, he's unignorable.
According to a Deadline piece published in March 2012, Chase walked off the set on the last day of shooting for season 3, a decision that sparked his conflict with Harmon. The following August, Harmon shed some light on why Chase stormed off set in one of Reddit's Ask Me Anything sessions. Writer-producer Adam County had apparently pitched a tag for the finale, which would have served as an emotional epilogue for the 3rd season. Chase, however, refused to shoot the scene because he didn't think it was funny. Whenever the actor walked off the set before that, the crew simply picked up his shots later in the week. But since they were filming the season finale, the sets came down after Chase went home. The scene was never shot, and Harmon was understandably not happy about it. Chase left the show later that year. The 2019 sci-fi flick Ad Astra cast Brad Pitt as an emotionally distant astronaut searching for his long-lost father, and the actor may have endured his own family struggles behind the scenes. In 2017, Hollywood Life reported that Pitt was stressed out over his divorce with Angelina Jolie, claiming he had stormed off the set while shooting a difficult scene. A source claimed that Pitt, who was attached to wires at the time, had previously engaged in heated discussions with director James Gray. Before then, these discussions apparently hadn't hurt the production at all. Hollywood Life's insider added that Pitt is not a bad guy and suggested that his emotions simply got the best of him that day. They said, "He has been living very clean and has not been drinking, smoking, or vaping, and that has been challenging for Brad too. Yesterday, all that tension came to a head and things kind of got out of hand." Dame Diana Rigg received much acclaim for her portrayal of the quick-witted Lady Olenna Tyrell on the blockbuster series Game of Thrones, and while she did walk off the set at one point during filming, she didn't do it out of spite. In 2020, Rigg's co-star Jessica Henwick told Entertainment Weekly how Rigg had taken a curious shortcut to perform a brief scene in season 6. Henwick said, "She walked onto the set and went, 'I'm ready now.' A cameraman came over and went, 'Well, okay, but we haven't finished setting up.' She interrupted him and said, 'Roll the cameras.' And she just started doing her lines. She did 2 takes, and then the guy came over and was like, 'Great, now we're gonna do a close-up.' And she just stood up and she went, 'I'm done.'" Henwick added that Rigg couldn't walk particularly quickly at the time, meaning the entire cast and crew had to watch as she stormed off the set in slow motion. Henwick said, "She cracked me up. I loved her." Joaquin Phoenix has earned something of a reputation for his committed performances in critically acclaimed films such as Walk the Line and The Master, and it appears that his ability to immerse himself in the minds of his characters can, on occasion, be too much to bear.
You wouldn't get it.
Case in point, his Oscar-winning turn in Joker, which spurred Phoenix to walk off set during filming on several scenes. In a profile of Phoenix for the New York Times, Joker director Todd Phillips explained that the actor often startled his co-stars with his abrupt exits. He said, "The poor other actor thinks it's them, and it was never them. It was always him, and he just wasn't feeling it." But as the filmmaker noted, Phoenix always used his exits to regain his focus, recalling that the actor once told him, "We'll take a walk and we'll come back and do it." Phoenix's Joker co-star Robert De Niro, who is no stranger to intense performances himself, understood Phoenix's need to exit. He said, "Joaquin was very intense in what he was doing, as it should be, as he should be. There's nothing to talk about personally on the side. Let's have coffee, let's just do the stuff." In 2021, Jennifer Aniston joined her Friends co-stars on the HBO special Friends: The Reunion, and she was surprised that the event proved so emotional. Afterwards, she told The Hollywood Reporter, "I think we were just so naive walking into it, thinking, how fun is this going to be? Then you get there and it's like, oh right, I hadn't thought about what was going on the last time I was actually here." Aniston told the publication that on several occasions, a collision of past and present forced her to walk off set in order to regain her composure. The emotional flood came from a kind of 2020 hindsight. Aniston and her co-stars were immediately reminded of where they were in their lives when the show ended in 2004 and where they would go in the years that followed. Aniston said, "It was like, hi past, remember me? Remember how that sucked?" It was all very jarring, and of course you've got cameras everywhere, and I'm already a little emotionally accessible, I guess you could say, so I had to walk out at certain points. Alec Baldwin found himself at the heart of the media attention surrounding the shooting death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins during filming on the movie Rust. But another name was frequently featured in coverage, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, who, as the film's armorer, was in charge of overseeing the prop weapons, including the gun that killed Hutchins.
I'm the armor. Or at least I was.
According to the Wrap, Gutierrez-Reed previously ran into trouble as an armorer on another Western, The Old Way, where her apparent inexperience reportedly compelled Nicolas Cage to walk off the set. The outlet's feature quoted Stu Brumbaugh, a key grip on The Old Way, who said that Gutierrez-Reed was so inexperienced at her job that she fired live ammunition near cast and crew on 2 occasions during the shoot. This reportedly angered Cage, who before storming off set yelled, "Make an announcement, you just blew my eardrums out." However, a producer of The Old Way told the Wrap that they had no recollection of such an event during filming. They insisted, "The details on some of these accounts, specifically when it pertains to The Old Way, have been blown out of proportion." Patrick Stewart's transition from British stage and TV actor to a Hollywood star stateside was not without its rocky moments. In a 1994 interview with TV Guide, Stewart acknowledged that the long hours and emotional challenge of playing Jean-Luc Picard on Star Trek The Next Generation occasionally led to tense moments. He said, "It just became overwhelming. I did my fair quota of yelling, that's true." At one point, Stewart walked off during a set visit by Good Morning America, which Stewart perceived as demeaning. He said, "I thought that it was disrespectful. They were doing shtick in our costumes, and I thought it was demeaning to the show. I'm at my least diplomatic when there's a lack of respect, and I'm not speaking only of me. But when I see anyone or any group of people being treated disrespectfully, that's when I'm inclined to lose it." Among the many celebrities who faced the apocalypse in the 2013 comedy This Is the End was Harry Potter star Emma Watson, who in one scene was to battle a cannibalistic Danny McBride leading Channing Tatum on a leash.
Hardcore, man.
Rumors have swirled for years that Watson walked off the set because of the scene's content. In an interview with British GQ, Seth Rogen attempted to set the record straight. He said, "I think sometimes when you read something, when it comes to life, it doesn't seem to be what you thought it was, but it was not some terrible ending to our relationship." Rogen added that Watson not only came back the next day, but also helped to promote the film. Of her decision to leave the set, he said, "She was probably right." Rogen later doubled down on the issue on his Twitter account, where he wrote that the popular story didn't portray the event accurately. Most notably, he claimed Watson did not storm off the set, as was frequently reported. Rogen tweeted, "The scene was not what was originally scripted. It was getting improvised, changed drastically, and was not what she agreed to. I'm very sorry and disappointed it happened, and I wish I had done more to prevent it." What happens when 2 notorious tough guys clash over a movie? In the case of Accidental Love, the answer is they both abandoned the project. Hard case number 1, James Caan, who walked off the set after director David O. Russell asked him to both cough and choke during a scene in which his character, a U.S. senator, asphyxiated on a cookie. Caan quit the film and his role was recast with James Brolin. The other immovable object was, of course, Russell, who had a long history of butting heads with his actors, literally and figuratively. Accidental Love endured a troubled production from its start in 2008, due largely to budgetary problems that caused numerous shutdowns, as well as difficulties stemming from Russell's own temperament. After 2 years of such issues, Russell abandoned the film in 2010. It was eventually released to a chorus of negative reviews. Though he eventually redeemed his career to a degree with CSI Miami, David Caruso initially halted his own rise to stardom in NYPD Blue by walking away from the show after 1 season. Caruso earned an Emmy nomination for his turn on the controversial cop drama, but also found himself the enmity of series co-creators Stephen Bochco and David Milch due to his volatile behavior on set. In his 2016 memoir, Bochco wrote, "Caruso's behavior was simply put, cancerous." Caruso reportedly wanted to leave the series to work in movies, and Bochco eventually brokered a deal whereby the actor could film the first 4 episodes of Blue's 2nd season so he could be properly written out of the show.
You're transferred to Borough Dispatch Duty, John. Steady day tour. Effective tomorrow.
After filming his final scene, Caruso reportedly walked off set and never looked back. Bochco wrote, "When he had shot his last scene of the 4th episode, he turned without a word and left the set, the stage, and the lot. He didn't say a single word of thanks or a goodbye to his castmates. Nothing." Now that the 80s cult comedy Alf is being revived by Ryan Reynolds' studio, it's perhaps time to recognize that the original series was no picnic for the cast and crew. The show, which ran on NBC from 1986 to 1990, featured a cast of actors interacting with the title creature, an eccentric alien portrayed by a puppet operated by series co-creator Paul Fusco. To accommodate the 4'3" puppet, the soundstage was built off the ground and riddled with holes through which Fusco manipulated the puppet. This arrangement required long hours, which were exacerbated by the fact that Alf was the star of the series and the humans were his second bananas. Actor Max Wright, who played family patriarch Willie Tanner, later said, "It was hard work and very grim." Actor Anne Shadeen, who played Willie's wife, Kate, told People magazine that Wright's frustrations with the series came to a head during the filming of its final episode. She explained, "There was one take, and Max walked off the set, went to his dressing room, got his bags, went to his car, and disappeared. Nobody had to say wrap, and there were no goodbyes." Wright had a change of heart about his co-star sometime before his death in 2019, however, as he said, It doesn't matter what I felt or what the days were like, Alf brought people a lot of joy. The Walt Disney Company's bitter war of words with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis spurred a walkout by employees in 2022 as part of protests against a controversial state education bill. Actor Raven-Symoné, a member of the LGBTQ+ community and star of the Disney Channel series Raven's Home, participated in the protest alongside her co-stars. They walked off the series set to decry House Bill 1557, the notorious Don't Say Gay bill, which prohibits discussion of sexual orientation or gender identity in early years classrooms that is not age-appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students. The actor posted a video with her castmates on her Instagram account that solidified her stance on the bill. The caption read, "In today's world, it is imperative that we take stands, show support, and move forward, not backwards. Every family, every person, and every child deserves to be recognized no matter their race, gender, or sexual orientation." Employees from many Disney companies, including Marvel Studios, Lucasfilm, and 20th Century Fox, also participated in the protest. The 1967 James Bond spoof Casino Royale was a convoluted project to begin with, featuring a vast international cast and using up no fewer than 5 directors, before Peter Sellers complicated matters almost beyond repair.
James, I need you.
Yes. Well, I can understand that, my dear. I can understand that.
Cast as a Baccarat champ hired by James Bond to impersonate him during a game, the actor was plagued by mood swings and insecurities throughout the shoot. He fought, both verbally and physically, with longtime friend and collaborator Joe McGrath, and he also refused to appear in scenes opposite Orson Welles, which required them to be shot at separate times. Eventually, Sellers walked off the film altogether, forcing producer Charles Feldman to scramble in order to save the picture from collapse. The solution was to rewrite the script so that half of the movie's characters also impersonated Bond. The ruse didn't really help win over critics, but audiences were apparently delighted with the hijinks. Casino Royale ended up being one of the most profitable films of 1967. According to the legendary director Werner Herzog, actor Klaus Kinski walked out on 35 films in 5 years. And while making Aguirre the Wrath of God, it appeared for a brief time that he was going to abandon his 36th feature. But in an interview with Roger Ebert in 2005, Herzog said that he not only stood up to the notoriously combustive Kinski, but he did so in an entirely Herzog-esque way. Kinski's breaking point reportedly came at the end of the difficult shoot, which took place in the Peruvian rainforest and frequently forced the cast to float down the Amazon on rafts. At one point, Kinski lost his temper after seeing a set photographer smile while he was performing in a scene and demanded that Herzog dismiss them. When the director balked, Kinski gathered his belongings and climbed into a speedboat for a dramatic departure. In his interview with Ebert, the director debunked rumors that he forced Kinski to act at gunpoint and said that his words were enough to halt the actor's rampage. He remembered, "I said to him, I do have a rifle. He could try to take the boat and he might reach the next bend of the river, but he would have 8 bullets through his head." After realizing that the director was serious, an unhappy Kinski returned to complete the film, which is today regarded as one of Herzog's greatest productions. Fox's reality competition series The Masked Singer prides itself on its lighthearted, tongue-in-cheek tone, but the revelation of one contestant sparked an uncomfortably serious moment during episode 7 of its 7th season in 2022. In the episode, the masked celebrity hammering his way through a tone-deaf rendition of Bad to the Bone was revealed to be Rudy Giuliani. As you're probably well aware, the former New York mayor and lawyer's association with former President Donald Trump has resulted in the decline of his professional career, including multiple indictments for his alleged participation in a conspiracy to overturn the 2020 presidential election.
And they're going to degrade themselves by doing a mugshot of me. Like, people will recognize me.
When Giuliani was revealed inside the Jack-in-the-Box costume, 3 of the judges, Jenny McCarthy-Wahlberg, Nicole Scherzinger, and Robin Thicke, responded with various degrees of surprise. For the 4th judge, Ken Jeong, responded with stone-faced silence and crossed his arms until Giuliani reprised the song. At that point, Jeong said he was done and exited the set. Thicke also left the set, though his departure was not shown on camera. Rob Wade, Fox Entertainment's president of alternative entertainment and specials, stood by the casting after the episode aired. Adam Sandler's critically reviled comedy The Ridiculous Six found itself in trouble when reports surfaced that several Indigenous American actors had walked off the set in 2015. Reportedly, they were protesting what they perceived as racially insensitive jokes and disrespectful treatment by the film's producers. The Indian Country Today media network reported that a dozen actors walked out after speaking to unnamed producers. Lauren Anthony, one of the actors involved, said, "They just treated us as if we should just be on the side." Film student Allison Young, who also left the set, said that producers labeled them as oversensitive at the time. She said, "We talked to the producers about our concerns. They just told us, if you guys are so sensitive, you should leave." However, the New York Daily News quoted Native American actor Ricky Lee, who said that only 4 actors left the set while many others remained. Lee said, "Believe me, if everyone was really offended, there would be a much bigger uproar." He also noted that Sandler spoke to several Indigenous American actors about the walkouts before the film's wrap party. Lee claimed, "The last thing that he said before he got up was that the thing that made him feel the worst is that 4 people got their feelings hurt."